and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source, where no religious body seeks to impose its will, directly or indirectly, upon the general populace or the public acts of its officials, and where religious liberty is so indivisible that an act against one church is treated as an act against all. For while this year it may be a Catholic against whom the finger of suspicion is pointed, in other years it has been, and may someday be again, a Jew, or a Quaker, or a Unitarian, or a Baptist. It was Virginia's harassment of Baptist preachers, for example, that led to Jefferson's Statute of Religious Freedom. Today I may be the victim, but tomorrow it may be you, until the whole fabric of our harmonious society is ripped apart at a time of great national peril. Finally, I believe in an America where religious intolerance will someday end, where all men and all churches are treated as equals, where every man has the same right to attend or not to attend the church of his choice, where there is no Catholic vote, no anti-Catholic vote, no block voting of any kind, and where Catholics, Protestants, and Jews, at both the lay and the pastoral levels, will refrain from those attitudes of disdain and division which have so often marred their works in the past, and promote instead the American ideal of brotherhood. I would not look with favor upon a president working to subvert the First Amendment's guarantees of religious liberty, nor would our system of checks and balances permit him to do so. And neither do I look with favor upon those who would work to subvert Article 6 of the Constitution by requiring a religious test, even by indirection. For if they disagree with that safeguard, they should be openly working to repeal it. But let me stress again that these are my views. For contrary to common newspaper usage, I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president, who happens also to be a Catholic. I do not speak for my church on public matters, and the church does not speak for me.
Aloha, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the things that made me feel really uncomfortable in the Democratic Party. And frankly, it was one of the reasons that I left. Now, today's Democrat Party has become hostile, openly, outwardly hostile towards people of faith and spirituality, actually trying to remove God from every facet of our public life. Now, this isn't hyperbole or just my opinion. We see many examples of exactly how they're doing this. Back in 2004, the Democratic Party platform included 7 mentions of God. Their most recent platform in 2020 mentions God just once. During that same 2020 DNC convention, several of the caucus and council meetings actually chose to omit the words "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That clip speaks for itself. We've seen other examples of high-profile Democrats who are actually mocking and openly discriminating against people of faith. President Obama once ridiculed Americans for clinging to their guns and religion.
So it's not surprising then that they get bitter and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or a way to explain their frustrations.
So now it won't surprise you that Vice President Kamala Harris, back when she was a U.S. Senator in 2018, made a comment that membership in the Catholic service-oriented pro-life charity organization, the Knights of Columbus, was disqualifying for the nomination of federal judge Brian Boucher. But you know what she didn't reference, what she didn't talk about, is other members of the Knights of Columbus, like President Kennedy or Senator Ted Kennedy. The other senator from California, Dianne Feinstein, famously scolded Justice Amy Coney Barrett in a Senate hearing. You know, Justice Barrett, a devout Catholic, claiming that, quote, the dogma lives loudly within you, viewing Justice Barrett's faith as a disqualifying factor.
I think whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different. And I think in your case, Professor, when you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country.
You know, what's of concern is that we have U.S. senators serving in office who are blatantly ignoring Article 6, Section 3 of the Constitution, which says, quote, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. What they're doing here is nothing less than religious bigotry through and through, and it's a direct assault on religious liberty. This is something I've experienced directly, both when I was running for Congress as well as when I ran for president, where I had the mainstream media and those who were opposing my candidacy directly attacking my religion, writing smear pieces, throwing baseless accusations at me, all to try to invoke suspicion in voters, to try to get them to not vote for me, not support me. Now, this is something that President Kennedy faced when he ran for president, this exact kind of religious bigotry. He was attacked by the media. He was attacked by people of other religions who, again, publicly disqualified him, invoked suspicion in other people, fear-mongering, fomenting these suspicions and fears, all because President Kennedy was Catholic. Now, he responded to this head on, citing the Constitution, citing the First Amendment during a really powerful speech that he delivered to the Greater Houston Ministerial Association in September of 1960. Now, unfortunately and sadly, these Democrat leaders, they have either forgotten or are actively choosing to ignore the words of President Kennedy in their dogged pursuit of power. They are launching religious bigoted attacks on political opponents or those who dare to disagree with their policies. They are belittling people of faith with their condescending and arrogant proclamations. And dangerously, they're doing so from a position of great impact and power within the federal government. Now, today's Democratic Party seems to have forgotten that freedom of religion does not mean freedom from religion. This is unfortunate because our founders actually made this very clear in the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We have to have faith and trust in our government that it will respect every one of our innate rights to develop our own personal loving relationship with God, as well as the right of those who choose not to. Each and every one of us must be free to express and practice our faith as we choose without fear of state-sponsored censorship, discrimination, or bigotry. Now, our founders were very clear about where our rights come from. The Declaration of Independence says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Our freedom comes from God, no one else. And to recognize and respect each other as children of God is to appreciate that we belong to God and no one else. No government, no person has the right to take away the intrinsic freedom that God has given us. Now, George Washington recognized this, and he beautifully shared his own expression of faith during his inaugural presidential address. He said, "It would be peculiarly improper to omit in this first official act my fervent supplications to that almighty being who rules over the universe, who presides in the councils of nations, and whose providential aids can supply every human defect, that his benediction may consecrate to the liberties and happiness of the people of the United States a government instituted by themselves for these essential purposes, and may enable every instrument employed in its administration to execute with success the functions allotted to his charge. In tendering this homage to the great author of every public and private good, I assure myself that it expresses your sentiments not less than my own, nor those of my fellow citizens at large less than either. When those in power try to take our God-given rights enshrined in the Constitution away, they're trying to take our power away. Because the weaker we are, the more powerful they become. And the more powerful we are, the more free we are, the weaker they become. And that's what they want. They want us to be weak. They want us to be dependent on them. They want us to be afraid. And sadly, they have proven that they'll stop at nothing in their pursuit of power. Attacks on our religious liberty cannot be allowed to stand, period. The Biden administration is dangerously weaponizing and politicizing its Justice Department, and they're threatening our God-given rights and freedoms, and we have to stand up, every one of us as Americans, to defend against those attacks. We have to come together. We have to speak out and stop these abuses now, or we will find ourselves in a place where our religious freedom, a cornerstone of our democracy, will soon become a relic of the past. More and more people are waking up to this reality all across the country, actually understanding the threats to our freedom of speech and religious liberty that are occurring as we speak. People of faith are being targeted in America right now, discriminated against, having the administrative state, our government, weaponized against them. And now, whether you have personal experience this or not, or you know someone who has, every one of us as Americans should be alarmed. Because as President Kennedy stated today, it may be an assault on someone else's religious liberty. Tomorrow, it could be you.